Good morning, good morning. Almost forgot to turn on the mic. Happy Tuesday. Yes, today is Tuesday, right? Yeah, it is. Oh, it is gonna be one of those days. One of those weeks, maybe. Work has been interesting. We did a deployment yesterday, and now we have little bugs popping up here and there from that, and we get to go and fix all of those. So that's what I have to look forward to during my day job. But during here this time, I gotta work on this stuff. So I guess let's just get right into it. One thing I was thinking about is where did I put the README for that? Oh, it's in BBECS. That's where it is. Here. I was thinking I want to maybe not organize this like videos. I mean, it's sort of like M, but also is by just sort of like chapters or sections. So we'd have like introduction, then like the project. So I guess in introduction, we would have maybe like the like a trailer for the project. Then we would need like introduction to like the project we're going to do. So basically welcome to the course. Let's see. Introducing the project. These are, of course, working titles. I don't know what I exactly would call them. Maybe they'll just be the same, or maybe not. Let's see. Introducing the project. Let's see. Is there anything else that I need? Probably not. It's like those three probably are what I want to do. So like the trailer, which I can do at the very end. Welcome to the course, introducing the project. Introducing the project would of course go into like all the what is ECS and all that stuff. Okay, so then any prerequisites. So prerequisites. Then we'd get into the actual like coding parts. So my thoughts are we're gonna have like a couple different passes or a couple different sections to this. So it's gonna be introduction and then like I guess initial setup. After initial setup, then we're going to pick let's see. So we do initial setup. That's going to be things like creating the general world, creating the project, discussing like what the technical things are. So, basic boilerplate, or I guess like the hello world that everyone sets up. Then after that, we want to create our I guess like we'll choose the architecture. So choose the project architecture. And this is where we then decide like, hey, we're gonna have resources and entities. They're gonna be split out in this way. Okay, then I think that's good enough for like the initial setup, and then when creating the world, like I think resources is going to be our first thing. So resources. Okay, so what are the things that we need to do for the resources? Actually, let's just do, we have resources, and then we have entities. And then I think that's kind of it. Then like probably some kind of conclusion. And there we go for that. So then all the lessons are going to fall into one of these two, essentially. Like these are all just preparation. So in resources, let's go and set this up. We're going to want tests to like test for the different, like actually doing the things. So if I reset this, because this is function resources, add a resource and then get that out. And now I have my tea. Okay, so if I have if I create these tests as like each test is like at the end of like one of these little mini projects or like sections, the first thing that we're going to want to do is, then I wonder, we're probably going to want integration tests also for this then. So maybe like write up like what the tests would be. So initial setup, and then basic integration test setup. That would obviously be just sort of like a hello world type thing. So if I remember correctly, that's outside of source. We can do a test. I can't remember if it's test or tests. That's wrong. We need a folder name test. Lumicode, hello. How are you doing today? So if I do something like, probably wouldn't be like initial setup. We'd probably like choose the actual write, and then we'll tell you like where that test is to write it. Well, I guess like that's the other question is, am I writing the tests or is the person taking this course writing the tests? It's a good question. I think like probably yes. Probably both in a way. Like I can write the test for them, going through everything, and then they could just sort of like follow along, do it yourself now. Okay, so name must be provided. Okay, so what are we gonna do here? This is basically gonna be like initial setup. This is like integration tests for it, so it's just like BB ECS integration test. Oh, maybe we're gonna test like getting. I don't know what to name this. Like getting resources. So like testing resources. Oh, we could call it like resources spec.rs. So if I do test function, basically this is, I want to store the resources. Store resource. So if I just do like an assert equal like 1 and 1. You don't seem to care at all. So test is wrong. What, test? That's wrong too. Let's see. Rust. Okay, so it's tests. And then, okay, they often call them just, okay, integration tests is what they suggest. Oh, okay. No, wait, no, that's the wrong one. Oh, no, it is. It find this. Okay, so integration test. So specifically, we're looking at integration tests for resources. So resources tests. Interesting that it takes so long for it to like recognize, hey, you're a test. Oh, it's probably because it's like re-indexing everything. That's what's going on here. Okay, so if I do this assert equal 1 and 1. If I run tests, okay, so that's all fine there. And if I run test, okay, so then here in this section, we have running tests here, and then we have the doc test too. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so the basic integration test setup is probably going to be something like creating a new world. So we can add in what that would be too. This would be like world SRS. So okay, so creating a world. Maybe like just using the world. Well, I guess like in these different ones, it would be like creating, right? So creating world. So we should be able to do that world equals. So if I do that, world, okay, it does the use automatically for me. That. And like we'd pretty much just start like that, right? that's how we're going to build all these things. And so we can use the integration tests as a sort of a test-driven development as part of this. And these tests should just work, even if I don't have any assertions in them. But creating the test, yeah, that just works and passes. Because it's really looking for like whatever the equivalent to like throwing. Deprame you, hello, good morning. Okay, so that's that. So in resources, what's the order that we do stuff in? We want to basically creating just creating the resources struct. I guess like we have to also go over what the data structure for the resources is going to be. So how we are going to store the resources. We could also use the integration test as sort of a test-driven development, which I think would be really handy for like following along. Because then if you are following along, you'll be able to just like sort of like take the tests and verify like, okay, once I get this working, I'm good. So if we look at like all the actions we can do off of resources here, we basically can do like new. So, and if we look at these videos of like what the tests are going to be writing, so introducing to the project, I guess like then how to use the course. We're going. So then, in this case, it's going to be basically initializing the resources struct. We then want to get the data. So, oh no, probably adding in data. So, inserting a resource. We probably should discuss like what is a resource too. Okay, so we're gonna have inserting a resource. After we've inserted the resource, we need to like get the resource. So get the resource, and then also get the resource mutably. I think that's it, right? So we have like insert, get, and get mute. I don't know if we need like a delete in here. But basically, that's resources for us. Entities. So what is an entity? How are we going to store the entities? Okay, that's pretty much the same. Initializing the entity struct. And then let's go into entities here. So this one is a lot more complicated. I'm thinking that like slowly over time, we add, like we increase the complexity as like this is building. I say over time, it's not going to really take that long. But okay, so we basically, the big things that we need to be able to do here is CRUD the entities. Generally speaking, you don't need delete on resources, but maybe we should have that. We should CRUD. Let's make sure we have CRUD resources. So we have create, read. So both the reads. So this includes like read and then update, and then delete. So we need delete a resource. Okay, then I guess also like in initial setup, how like documents. So like documenting a Rust project. So using like the doc quote, like the doc box. And then we're going to do the same thing here. So for entities, we're going to have like inserting an entity. We want, well, so this is where it gets interesting, right? So like inserting an entity is really creating an entity using the builder pattern to insert a bunch of components to create an entity. And then we have that bit mask, which should be introduced from the beginning because it's a little bit harder to sort of like add it in after the fact. So initializing the entity struct, we're also going to have setting up the, it kind of is like an in-memory database for the components. So this is going to be the bit mask. Let's see. Okay, so we set up the bit mask. Once we have the bit mask, that makes things a lot simpler. We can now just sort of like add an update and all that fun stuff. We could do the CRUD. So we can insert the entity because we're also updating our bit mask at the same time. So insert an entity, all components. Then query for let's see, querying for entities with specific that include specific components with specified components. Okay, query for entities with specified. Okay, so once we query for them, then like we've got those, we can then do the read and the updates. That's essentially the create and the read. And then we have delete. So delete entities, which is going to force us to do like the update. We actually didn't need this for the zombie simulator, but we could very easily, we should be able to easily add this in, and it should be pretty easy for us to do. Okay, so delete entities. Then anything, something we did find that was really helpful in the zombie simulator was adding and removing components. So basically CRUD for components for an entity. So this would be adding a component to an entity. Updating is like we already get that through the query, so that should be fine. Reading is the same way, it's then deleting. So removing a component from an entity without deleting the full entity all on its own. And then I think we're pretty much done. Like that's everything. So lessons learned. So what are your next steps? Can you do with this library? Like what things like can you do? Maybe like an overview of skills, of like skills practiced. And then like what is next? It's basically what are your next steps? And I think that's what that would be. So these would essentially be like the first pass at videos, but there might be like some of these broken up and more like added in as we need to do them. So let's see. Welcome to the course. This might be good after we build everything and like do all the other videos. How to use the course. I think we should like leave this until the very end. And then we're going to start with like probably just go through an order here. The hello world. So we should probably do project architecture first. Our hello world actually includes basic integration setup. Yeah, at least in my mind, it does. So hello world. Didn't say to do that. There. Okay, so for this, hello world is going to be basically like just running cargo new with tests. Maybe I just don't even need that thing there. With like a hello world with canary test. And then probably adding a little tiny bit of the documentation. I don't know. I don't think I necessarily need that there. We can go into it as we get it. So let's make sure all these things are working. So Resource test. I'm just gonna go ahead and delete that file. Just gonna delete the folder. Okay, so everything is good here. I want to, we're gonna do this in a branch. I'm probably gonna do this in the master branch or the main branch or whatever it's called. And if I want to, so I want to, oh, that's interesting. Oh, load that up. Oh. There you are. Oh, you need me to do that too. Hold on. Just want. So I need secrets. Let's update Stream Deck so that I can switch. Where's it? OBS. Switch to scene. Okay, this is gonna be secret. Build. Then secret. Okay, so if I do that. And oh, it just like blanks out the entire thing. I guess I turned off the that image, or I deleted the image. It was just like I wrote on like a secret on stuff. But this is good for this type of thing. So now I can open up you, and you can't see it. Okay, so then I want to create new. So grab you. View to begin with, copy, and okay, you're gonna clear that all out, and I don't need you. And dark mode, please. Where's dark mode? Parents. Dark. Okay. So I am experimenting with, there you go, back to main with this. So like you're basically moving a bunch of the stuff from like just that README so I can switch between different branches. and still have like all of this up in here. So let's do like projects. Just have this be a table. And this is going to be the like learning ECS tutorial, essentially. Learning ECS. I don't think I necessarily need a tags. Add in type. You're going to be tutorial. And then we can open you up as a page. Okay. Let's come back to here. All right, so what's our basic like plan for this? We're gonna come back to here. Nope, copy all of you. Put you in here. Oh, it's like it almost figured it out, but it didn't. I figured this part out, although I want to like convert these to turn into to-dos. Don't need you. Convert you to check boxes. Okay, guys, then. And I don't think I need you all. As I sort of like build this out, I might need to add more videos, but I think that'll be fine. And then I'll just sort of like add them in here. So finally, okay, so that's all. Basically, that's all set up for us. So my idea is probably to do the introduction last. I guess I don't need to move it down to the bottom. Okay, so choosing the project architecture. So we kind of know what our project architecture is going to be. So we could probably just like start recording that sooner than later. I am planning on using this whiteboard pretty heavily for it. I named this ECS. Can I rename you? I can create a new freehand. That's it. So maybe we should create a new freehand for this. Okay, so name of my freehand. This is going to be level up by creating your own ECS in Rust. Okay, so they don't have anything for me here. I just want blank. So I've mentioned this a few different times. I've asked them if they have a dark mode where I can just like set everything to be black. They do not have that. That is hopefully something that's gonna come. But yeah. All right, so we have that. I have like a Wacom tablet, so I can draw there. And of course, this is after introducing the project. So like after introducing like what even is ECS. So our project architecture, really, if we think about it, it's just going to be, we're going to have like the entry of the world. So I'm a big believer of doing like a practice run, but also recording the practice run. And then if that turns out really well, then the practice run was the real run. Otherwise, it's something else. I want to set up recording abilities. I don't need to set up that too. So to record there. Record. Oh, it's stop record? Oh, okay, cool. So it's recording and stop recording now. Oh, that's cool. Okay. So then I can hit that and start a recording. It saves to disk. And then we'll be able to do all the things. Let's see, is there anything I need before I would start doing our first one, which is choosing the project architecture? I know like a lot of other people that are doing like tutorials online, they're using like slide decks. I don't know if I need to use a slide deck for something like this. Um, I might be able to get away with just how I normally do it, except less live. Sort of like more practice, and less like making mistakes. Like I'm still could possibly make a mistake during it, but it should still be like, okay, here's just like doing the entire thing. And maybe I can cut out like any like, what am I doing again? How did I get here? I just did this project, but I now forgot everything. Never happened to anybody, I'm sure. Especially me. Okay, so choosing our project architecture. So it's more like designing our project architecture, right? Oh, you know what we need to do also as part of this? We need to figure out that's the name of the project. So it's gonna be like, I guess like the course itself. But I have like the metadata as part of it. I wonder if that should actually go in as properties. Maybe. I'm gonna want like the image for it. I'm gonna want, can I change you to be an image? Files and media. Yeah, so I can. So like the thumbnail, I need to figure out what that's gonna be. The title, so like we have a working title right now, improve skills by making an ECS library, is pretty long. And then I guess like there's a subtitle. So this would be like choosing your project architecture would be the subtitle. I almost want to then turn these into my own like sub database. So if I do table, we could just do this one in line. So these are like the videos. Then if I'm gonna do this, choose the project architecture. So this could be like the title of that. So planning project architecture. Then we can have things like, is it recorded, and like what the video name is, and I guess like we'll probably have to have like I don't know if I need like a unique thumbnail for that. Probably not. Okay, that might make more sense. Is like doing this way instead of just down here, so we can add more metadata to it. And these can be opened up as pages if necessary. Let's also grab this link before I forget it. So you can view only anyone with a link. Okay, so you're gonna be the I guess like the whiteboard link, the freehand. Yeah, let's just do whiteboard. Your URL. Then I'll probably like use all of this information to craft the like description of the videos as well. All right, so planning project architecture. Then from this, we know what are like the points that we want to hit for this. The points that we want to hit is going to be, we want to make sure that we can handle user, like any type of data comes in. Oh, I guess like that's not really architecture. The architecture is going to be the layout of files. So we'll probably have our world. So we want to be able to handle the world, resources, entities, sort of like any kind of helpers for like querying, which is different. We learned is different than entities. Or errors is going to be different from that too. And that's what I have here. Okay. So if I move that off to the side, so I can see that. Grab you, get out of the way. My cabling is a mess in here. I need to redo that. You're all working, right? So, okay, now you're working. Yeah, so I think we're good here. I'm also thinking like no music during it, so I can just pause during that time. And I want to reset it so that we don't have the interface up. So that way you can all chat and it's not going to just sort of like bother and be in front of everything. So what can I do? I know there's a system in like the Stream Decks that I can easily set that up in like one go and just sort of like turn off what I want to. The big things that I have up right now is the chat above me and so chat, music, and the flocking simulator are all going above me. So I wonder if I can multi-action switch. Oh, drag the action. Okay, so this could be sort of like what I can do on and off. Okay, so to go on, this is going to be pair, sort of like recording. Or like turn everything off. Like switch to tutorial mode. And the other one is going to be it's going to be toggle tutorial. Toggle tutorial mode. Okay, I like that. Oh, they are different labels. Okay, never mind. So tutorial on tutorial off. All right, so what I'm looking at is this stuff. So I can set up some actions here on the right, and then I can use this actual like physical stream deck that I got to then record that. So that's this button right here. Previously I was just using like a phone, and I got like the software for that, but I realized that like, hey, this is pretty nice. I should set this up and start using it. So what I want to do, like when I want to go to tutorial on, I want to turn off the chat. So I probably want to like switch to a scene. Either I want to switch to a scene or I want to just like turn off these sources. Can I turn off the source? Can't. So I can say source, title. This is going to be chat. I want to deactivate. Turn chat. So this is going to be in main, source, interface, chat. Okay, and then there's the asteroids. Turn off asteroids. Activate. Okay, there's that. And then is there anything else? Probably turn off music, or the music might be fine too. The music might be okay. So if I do this and I just now press this button, they turn off. Nice. Okay, so then I want to turn this back on, so when I'm done recording, we're good for that. So this is now, let's see, we're gonna do VS source, turn on chat. So activate main interface chat. And then turn on Droids activate. So then that comes back on. Now I can toggle it on and off. So I think I want to change the names around. Right now I just have this like tutorial on. So this is really like we're on tutorial mode. No. When I'm in this mode before this, I'm not actually doing the tutorial yet. So this is going to switch to tutorial. So prepare for recording. Then here is finished recording. So now I can do that easily to turn them back on and off. Okay, nice. Go over there. Then I have record button on here, so that should just work. That should send it to my second disk drive, so it doesn't like screw up my computer if I overload. I think I'm ready to do like try the first one out. So let's go ahead and give it a shot. We're doing planning the project architecture. So we are in that mode. So you can still chat during this time, but it won't show up on screen, but I'll still be able to see it out here. And then I don't know if I'm going to be doing like reading through chat or just sort of like essentially pretending that I'm not streaming during this time. I don't know. I haven't decided that part yet. But okay, so we have you out. Let's switch to that. There we go. All right, let's try this. It's gonna be. Welcome back to improving our skills by building a ECS library in Rust. So for this video, we're going to be going over the architecture of this project that we're going to be building together. So to begin with, we're going to have a world. And our world is really just going to be this entry point in the main library. So I'm going to basically build these things as like just sort of like squares and rectangles to sort of like show off what like where our methods and where the files are going to be located. So here's going to be our main world, and we're going to then have resources, and we're going to have the entities over sort of here, and they're going to connect in to our main world. Now, entities is really just going to be made up of components. And so those, it will be like a list of components inside of here. Resources, however, will be the actual structs and whatever data is handed into us. It makes it like slightly different the way they're going to be stored, and also like potentially different of how they're going to be queried and used. Other things that querying for entities is actually going to be potentially a little bit difficult. So I'm thinking we're probably going to have some kind of helper structs that can come just for like entities here. So I'm believing we're going to have like a query that's really loaded up from entities here. There might be multiple files in here. We might just call them utilities. And then inside of here, let's also have an errors. And this will be like potential errors that we could run into. And this could be grabbed by everything. Now, I drew this line to queries, but really that's not exactly right. Because what's going to happen is errors is actually loaded in through entities and then get through queries. But then in this case, I might as well not have that line there. This is then going to be grabbed through our main world. So we'll have our world here. It will re-export errors, or it'll export errors. That way the consumers of our library can grab it. But then also entities can, through the world, get access to the errors. Queries can, through entities, get access through the errors. And then resources can also get that through the world as well. So I think this is the very general, like super high level architecture that we're going for. Now, inside of resources, I'm planning on storing everything as a hash map. So a hash map in Rust looks very similar to like an object or a dictionary or a table in many other languages. So it's like keys and values is what we have. Now for the value, that should be simple. That's going to be whatever the resource data that we have handed to us. So if we have in here, we'll have a colon, and this will be the whatever resource. Now, we don't know what this exactly is, so we're probably going to have some kind of trait, and we'll do dynamic dispatch in order to store this resource away. So in this case, we're going to have probably a type dyne resource. Now, if we have a dyne resource, we're going to have to box that up. So let's also have a box. That's a dyne resource. Now, for the key for this, we have a couple different choices. We can do something very similar with like a box dyne resource. We can have a T, like a specific type, that would be what is like our actual key. I kind of like that because then this allows our users to use an enum that would then set what the key is, and then we'll have the box. Now, is that completely true? I already forgot what we specifically did and if I wanted to go down that path. For our resources, no, we did. Oh, we did type ID in the box any. I think that's what we want to do. We want to do type ID and then the box dyne any. So this is, we're going to have box and dyne, and we can do resource. This is fine too. We can do resource. But instead of T like this, we would want this to be a type ID, which will make it easy for getting things out. I am not super great at editing, so I don't know if I have the skills to like sort of like take what I partially recorded and like do it again. So I kind of want to just like try this again and do it all over again. So let's rid of all of you. And we'll do you again. All right, try number 2. Welcome back to the building our own Rust ECS library as a way to level up our skills. So in this video, we're going to be going over the architecture, just a very high level architecture, how we're going to store the data, and what like the folder and file structure is just going to look like in general. So we're going to start with at the bottom here, just like a very basic, the library file. It's going to be a library project, and that's where we're going to have our world. So we'll probably just have like our lib.rs, and that's where our world is going to be. Now, connected to that, any sort of like errors that we have, we're going to want just like a central place, and then we'll grab those out. So we'll have like maybe an errors, and that'll be attached in here. We'll make these public too, so that way anybody who's using this library can grab, can see those errors and then match on them. Okay, so then we are going to have our resources, and then the actual entities themselves. For resources, the way that we can store the actual resources themselves to allow us to allow our user to like basically use anything that they want for it, we'll just have a trait probably named resource, and then we'll use dynamic dispatch to be able to just store that away inside of a hash map. So what that might end up looking like is we'll have a key, which will be something, and then we'll have our resource in here. So because it's dynamic dispatch, we'll have to use a box, and then we can use the dyne keyword to then store the resource. Now, we don't even have to use a trait resource. We can, in fact, just do anything, because Rust does allow us to have an any trait. In fact, they provide us an any trait that pretty much everything gets. So we might be able to even just do that. Just do box dyne any or this box dyne resource. We'll have to sort of like play around with that as we get closer to it. And then what we can do is we can actually store the type ID as our key. And this will mean that extracting out our resource is going to be extremely simple. It will require some very specific architecture from the client's point of view, where we make them store their resources in a struct. So what that might look like is like struct. An example resource might be like the frames per second that we're getting. So we can call this maybe FPS resource. And we can even have this just be a tuple type that holds like an F32 in the case that that's what our FPS is. This definitely implements any, so we can just take this as it is, add the F32 to it, and store it into, just stuff into a box and put that into this object. Now, every type gets its own unique type ID, which means that when querying for it, we can just hand it this type and say, give us this resource back. Then, let's see, that could be the resources. Now for entities, because we're making a sort of like in-memory database here, we're gonna want probably a vector, or basically an array in many other languages. that's going to store all of our components. So let's imagine that these are all going to be, oh, I feel like every time I'm recording these, if there's no internet connection. If we imagine that these all the way down, like each column is going to be an entity, and then our components are going to be down like this. So this would be a vector of components, a vector of components. So if we have something like this would be location, then this would be like entity 1's location, entity 2's location, entity 3's location, and so on. Because we want to make sure that our database is rectangle shape, then we're going to want to make sure that everything, like one entity, the index is consistent all the way down. That means we should have an option for each of these, because not every entity will necessarily have every single component. So hit refresh. There we go. Try again. Great, I got a different color. So we'll have options for each of these. And then we're gonna need some kind of map in order to like tell us what things have the options or not. That's gonna make it much simpler for querying and for deleting. We'll get into that a little bit more when we get like actually into the entities part of the project. And then we'll do the exact same thing here. We'll have a resource that's going to be any. We're going to have probably just any. Use the any trait, which means that we'll just make our user create structs in order for each of these disparate types. And then finally, we're going to have our queries that allow us to query based upon anything. And so our queries should now be a separate sort of like utilities, probably. I'm thinking queries is going to be complicated enough that it's going to get its own sort of folder structure out here. So, queries, let me do it. Oh, of course it needs to refresh. Queries is going to go here and off of entities. All right. And then I think that's going to be our basic structure for this. So I look forward to building this all out with you. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. And like every time, like freehand never screws up until I want to like record or do something with it. It's like, why does technology do that? I'm not convinced that I really like going through this part with it and not just doing like a super tiny video on like just the folder structure. But at the same time, I think that it's like good to mention that like these are our choices for it. Okay, so if I do that back here, we have a recorded section. Okay, so we have that. And this will be in section, which will probably be select. This will be initial setup. Yeah. Okay, so then we have our Hello World with Canary integration test. Let's go ahead and... Is there anything else to save in here? I don't think so. I want to probably come back to the master branch. And we'll branch off of this, or we'll just use the master branch. I think I might just branch off of this. We can call this like the original backup, although we can just go back into the past too. It's like original. So like original backup, and then back into master, and now we can just sort of like delete everything and start over again. So inside of you, yes, I know Zombie Simulator is gonna be very upset. I'm just gonna go ahead and remove it from the workspace. I'm guessing I don't need any of these things. Okay, so I need the GitHub source. Just delete all the things. Okay, so there's target and then tests. Because we're going to want to create that in there. What is this? No. What do we have in here? We don't need GGEZ. I'm going to pull these things in as I need them. And this is going to end up being like, well, we'll come to that later. I'm in the master branch, but like I'm trying to think about, oh, you know what we should also set up in here? Deploying. Sort of like deploying, so then want like setting up I guess like this would be deploying to crates.io. In that case, this should probably be a different repo altogether. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll create like a different repo for this. Okay, so deploying to crates.io, because BBECS is already deployed to crates.io. Deploying to crates.io, and then like setting up CI/CD for auto deployment. Yeah, I think that's what it would be. The other thing that we'd be interested in, okay, so this is our hello world. I guess this is like just initial setup. Other areas we want to hit inside of here. Or I guess this is where we're going to create the repository. So create repository, initialize project, so library, maybe I don't need to do that. It's part of the actual video. So initialize the library project. We want to like probably set up integration tests. We want to like make sure we set up Clippy. Set up Clippy and Rust Analyzer. And is there anything else that I would care to set up? Now I already have in here, I think I have Rust Analyzer using okay, so check on save command, use Clippy in here. So that I think this is not default. So cargo check Clippy. And there's so much more stuff in here. Yeah, so I think the big thing is just to mention that I am using Rust Analyzer as the extension, and then also to come into here and note that I'm using Clippy to check the code. Is there... So if I have like something in the main library that RS, if I try to set... if I do like a pub function, like the thing. Is there something that, well, what is something that Clippy would yell at me about? Can't do that because that's just a normal thing. So I'd have to like do turn like U32. Oh, I think it's like the if statements, right? Like, so if I do if true, then 1, else 2. No? Okay, so it's... Clippy's fine with this too, huh? I don't remember what I would need to do to get Clippy to yell at me. It's always one of those things, like it's hard to remember what I need to do exactly. But let's go and like create a new repository for this. So we're gonna do a new, we're going to start on GitHub. Builds. Okay, so what are we gonna name this? This is gonna be improve skills by building ECS library in Rust. So tutorial project for improving our programming skills by building ECS library in Rust. Access public. Yeah, we'll clone it. Clone it builds. Sure, we'll create main. I'm gonna go ahead. Oh, let's make this. I usually just use MIT. So we'll clone you. You come into here. I don't necessarily need BBECS inside of this workspace anymore. I'm gonna add a new one, which is gonna be this. You. All right, so here's where we can then do our like get inits and all that other fun stuff. Let's go ahead and just remove all of these other folders from the workspace. That turned off. That's interesting. I did not expect that to turn off the line highlighter. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so then you closed. Settings, we'll check you. So really what this is like initially is library project. Set up Clippy, and then what other extensions do I have? So I'm using bracket pair colorizer. So really this is going to be this code extensions. So bracket pair colorizer, is it 2? It is 2. Crates. Am I using Night Owl? I think I'm using the Night Owl theme. I don't think that matters though. Rust Analyzer. With Clippy. I think that's it. That's all I need to care about for this. Okay, so initialize the library project. We're gonna set up the integration test. That's creating like a test folder, and then be able to do like new world essentially in there. And then Rust Analyzer is already set up for that. Okay, so there's not very much coding in here, but just enough. Let's see. Let's try this. So turn on you turn off. And see, I think this goes. Hello and welcome back to the improve our coding skills by making a ECS library in Rust. Today in this video, we're going to talk about our just initial setup here. So I got VS Code running, and I am on a Windows computer, but we can do Rust development with VS Code on any of the major operating systems: Linux, Windows, Mac. Okay, so let's go over the extensions that I have installed here that helps me with Rust. Specifically, I have Bracket Pair Colorizer 2. This works perfectly fine with Rust. I also have crates. Crates tells me what version of a crate I have in the cargo.toml file, and then allows me to easily select which one I want to use. And then finally, probably the most important one is Rust Analyzer. So there's two choices for sort of like language engine extensions to use: RLS and Rust Analyzer. I've decided to switch over to Rust Analyzer full time. I'm not using RLS or the Rust extension at all anymore. It's just this, and it's been working out really well for me. Now, if you do get Rust Analyzer, you can then open up your settings, come to the Rust Analyzer section, scroll down a little bit, and then there's this entire check on save command. Now, I've added in Clippy here, so that way it runs a cargo check Clippy every time that it also does the other Rust Analyzer sort of checks. Now, Clippy is an optional linter essentially for Rust that's just a little bit more strict than the normal Rust Analyzer linting or even RLS linting that you would get. In a way, it's gonna make us program a little bit higher quality, even if Clippy is just a little bit aggressive in how it wants our code to be. But I think that's good, because Clippy, having Clippy on has taught me several things about Rust that I hadn't really even thought to go look into. So sometimes it lets you know, hey, you can do this instead. Why don't you go try that? All right, so let's start off immediately by just setting up our initial project. I'm gonna go ahead and open up a terminal in here, and let's make sure that we have the latest version of Rust. I'm gonna do rust update. It looks like I have the latest version of Rust, but it's gonna update nightly Rust because I did install that toolchain a while ago. So every time you do Rust update, it's going to go through all the toolchains that you have installed and update them. So here we are. We are currently, if I want to like look at which ones, which version of Rust I'm actually running, we can do rust up. Is it list? No, it's rust up. And then it's rust up show. Show. Active toolchain is stable. So we can see that that's Rust version 1.53. And then I'm using the stable x86 64 PC Windows MS VC because I'm here on Windows. You'd see something different if you're on Linux or Mac. Okay, so once I'm in here, I'm in this directory. I don't want to create a library like directory for that, so I'm just going to do a cargo init --lib because we are creating a library project. That then creates our folder structure and files in this current directory. Okay, and then if I wanted to set up some kind of like integration test, they already give you some like very basic tests added in here. I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to just start with an integration test. Let's create ourselves a module for this. So let's do pub. We know we're going to be creating that world. So let's do pub struct world right here. I don't necessarily have anything to do with what I want. So I'm just going to create the world like that. Now outside of source, I'm going to create a folder named tests. And then inside of here, I can create our integration test files. So let's just, this is just going to be using the world. So let's do like world spec. Maybe I'll just call them integration tests. .rs. Now, any folder I want in, or any file that I want in here, or any function to be an actual test, I can give it this test line here. We're going to do pub function. Actually, it doesn't need public function, and then the name of our test. And so this was going to be like just basically setting up the world. So like testing the world. Now I don't necessarily need this to be like a full test. This might just be like a canary test to make sure that things are working, that we've set them up properly. So I just want to like let our world equals world. Now if we do that, we need to pull in the world. So can you find it? Looks like Rust Analyzer can't see this. Try restarting the server. Sometimes that helps be able to discover where this code is. There it is. Okay. So I restarted the Rust Analyzer server. Sometimes that happens after you create new modules. And I can now auto import this using VS Code. Now, if we can run this test right here, and it will just open up a little window, it'll test our running there, or I can just do a cargo test, which will then run all of our tests as well. And these are passing, so everything is good. So we've got our basically a hello world library essentially going, and an integration test folder set up so we can add those in the future as we need it as well. So with that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Hello stacking, not testing inside of the file. So I was thinking like these are gonna be like the integration tests, setting those up. We'll probably also have the other tests for like double loop testing as well. But we'll do those as we need them. This is like probably not a test we're gonna keep. It's just more of like, hey, just starting off with that. But this is all done there. So that's recorded. Cool. So it is now around 8:30, so I'm gonna have to head out, go to work and do all that fun stuff. Coming up, we're gonna have all these other things that we're gonna be doing. Probably just starting onto the resources and getting into that. I'm thinking we're gonna do like, practice round and then do the thing, but we'll record our practice round at the same time, so that way in case it's awesome, we'll just keep it. So with that, let's go ahead and end the stream.